canvas, you'll notice that I have an acrylic background here, and I do that basically for every painting I have. I just put a excuse me, I just put a little bit of a sketch in here so I sort of have an idea. And now I'm going to go over that with acrylic lines and also filling that in, and I will do a video and put that together. But this is what it overall looks like, and we're going to go from there and see. Okay, so here I am starting with acrylic. I usually use a base coat. I just happen to have this leftover blue, so I ended up using that. And the first thing I do usually is just fill in the white section of the eye. I'm going to go back over that, get that out of the way. I like using acrylic. A lot of people just use 1 or 2 tones of color and value. I happen to like using more than that. I hate this brush, and I need something finer. Oh, paper towels. I always have these on hand, and the reason being, I like to wipe every single time. I just pulled that out of some linseed oil, so I want to wipe it down. Now I'm just going to fill in this black, and I'm keeping my wrist on the canvas because my hand is not that steady anymore. And I'm just kind of going over the lines, the sketches that I did. Now, the thing is, when you're doing this part, you really don't want to get caught up in detail. You basically just want to give yourself a reference point. The color that I'm using is actually dark green. It's not black. Black is kind of harsh. Now I'm mixing a little bit of that red in there to get more of a brown, so it's not so, it seems a little harsh to me. Again, I'm not getting caught up in details. This is basically, the reason you want to do this is I let this dry and then I do the underpainting of acrylic. It's easier to have it dry, and oil paints take quite a lot longer to dry than acrylic, which is why I'm just outlining what I'm doing so I can have a reference point. Don't know if I like that chin right now. Just giving it an outline. The face is what most people focus on, obviously, because so you really want, what I do when I'm doing a figure, I always do the face first and I constantly go back to it. I don't just do the face and let it go. I have to think about it for a few days. I know that this part I'm going to have something going on, don't really know what yet. And then I'm going to start working, this is like a reference point for me. Now I need a bigger brush. I'm going to take my paper towel. Now I can use that other brush that I hated. This is just giving myself some reference points, right? And I'm just basically sketching this in. This green and this red, I'm mixing together to get a softer brown. This line was a little too, green and red make brown. This is a little bit softer of a look. That's the ear. Again, I'm not really getting caught up in details right now. I don't know if I'm gonna do a decoupage with this, with the body, or I think I might do her face how I did it a long time ago, which is just with oil paint, because I kind of like her expression. This is the bottom of that leg. I ended up doing this, so I'm going to go in between these two. Like that. Now these pencil lines that are in here, those will come out. Now this is a little bit finer. I want to make the lines between the fingers slightly bigger, so I might use a smaller brush. See, when you're working with acrylic, I think one of the things you want to do is you constantly want to leave yourself reminders. And the reminder here is to make these lines right here will be thinner than these. So that's the back part of that arm. So I'm using 2 brushes now. Again, I'm not really getting caught up too much in details, just giving myself some reference points. Now I've got these 2 colors, and I usually buy really cheap acrylic paint. I don't buy expensive acrylic paint because you really don't, for an underpainting, you really don't need to. There are certain times when you want to use more expensive paint, but this ain't one of them. So I'm just giving myself some reference points here. I'm going to go back with the other acrylic. This is a little heavier there. Hopefully you can see I'm not, okay. It's only me here in the studio, which is why I have to use the tripod. I want this to be something she's looking into, and I don't know what it's going to be yet. This is going to be something darker because I want this part to be lighter and behind her. And I kind of like this idea of something around her neck. So, okay. So now I've got, so this is acrylic paint, so that's my water bin. Now I'm going to use a bigger brush, and I'm going to mix up, what is wrong with my brushes? They all suck. Anyway, I'm going to mix up some color. I'm going to mix up some values for skin tones. It doesn't, again, I'm not getting caught up in details right now. I know I want some values, so that's slightly darker than this. And again, let's see. This is too light because now I want to do the dark tones first. So I know that the face, I'd have a darker tone here. Probably have a darker tone here. Maybe over here in this corner. I need a smaller brush for that. I have my go-to brushes that I really like. Now this is a thinner. I know that the light would probably hit that just slightly. Good thing about acrylic paint is that it's going to dry pretty quickly. All I'm doing right now is making lines to myself so I know what's dark and what's light. It doesn't really matter. I'm just making lines so that I say, okay, this is going to be a dark section. I usually use a lot of different colors for skin tones, but this is basically for the underpainting. I am an oil painter mostly. That'd probably be a little darker up there. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm doing a portrait, since I've got this brown, I'm going to pull some paint down off the eye because I like that kind of shadow there. Doesn't really mean a whole lot right now, but it's going to give me some ideas when I'm doing. Now, I want something in between these two right now. Mid-tone, so I'm doing, that's too dark. That's kind of a mid-tone between the two. No, not what I want. Now, some people use orange tones in the face, and I've used those before. I do like oranges. I might just try that. That's a little too red. Make that a little lighter. No. Again, I'm not getting caught up. It doesn't really matter what colors you use. These are just ideas. So that's probably darker there. And probably here somewhere would be light. I don't know why I put that line there. That line shouldn't be there. That's part of that. But again, it doesn't matter. I'm going to cover it with. Not going to be. How's that? We're just making executive decisions, aren't we? Kind of just like I like this part because it's more playtime, figuring out. Now that to me seems like it should be darker. This here. And here should be a little darker. It doesn't mean a whole lot right now. I'm just trying to figure out what I like. I'm imagining that the light is coming this way. I should have said that in the beginning. Sorry, a little behind the 8 ball here. This would probably be a little bit lighter, maybe. Okay, so now I have some reference points here. Now I'm cooking here. Now she has a shirt on here. I like incorporating paper and different things into the piece as I'm working. I usually do this first, only because it gives me an idea what I need to work on when I'm doing the paper. And you can see that I'm not really being ever so careful. I don't like the red against that. I think I'm going to use a blue. Sometimes when I'm in this process too, like for what I'm doing right now, I will let this dry and then start right with the decoupage. I like that lighter piece. I'm not getting really detailed right now. I don't need to be. Basically, I think when you are doing the background like I am right now, it gives you an idea. Now you're going through negative shapes right now, right? Because I didn't like the way that shape was going. So I can have a better reference point as I'm working. I'm using this canvas actually for a teaching class. This is really unimportant what I'm doing right now. Other than giving me the shape, it's helping my brain sort of realize what I want for shapes. Like this little shape coming down. I might have another one over here. This brush is good for this type of thing. A lot of times too, you can use stencils. I have a ton of stencils. I have a box of stencils, and I may just chuck some stencils in there just to kind of have it as a back. It's a good time to play, is basically what, you know, that stencil came out like shit, but let's try that again, because Alex is just learning how to do stencils. When you do a stencil, you don't want to put too much paint on the brush. And you want to kind of dab it, but again, I have no idea if I'm going to keep this or not. I'm just tossing ideas to the wind. Sometimes this underpainting can give you ideas as you're moving along. I have no idea if it will or not. Here is another stencil. You can tell they've been loved and used. I kind of like these small shapes in the hair. I'm incorporating that into her face right now, but this is, like I just said, this is playtime. And I just take stuff and I'm like, will this work? What paint do I have left over? Another stencil. Sometimes you don't have to keep the lines that you have, like this line right there. I may end up doing something with that amber color. Yellow ochre, if you want to be specific. I have no idea if I'll keep that or not, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's go back to that triangle or diamonds. Let's try that here. With layering, with acrylic layer and oil layering, you're basically, now I'm pretty much at a top point right now where I want to stop, and I'm going to start with the paper. But I have an idea. Now I've got an idea for the hair. I have the values for the face. I've got some ideas. I like that red with the amber on top, the ochre. And I know that this color is going to be dark, and I have this left over on my palette. Acrylic paint is cheap, but I'm going to fill this in just as a reference point. And you want to kind of leave yourself little markers about what you were thinking in the beginning, so it gives you some idea. I was using this canvas for a painting class, so it's not a really expensive canvas, and you can tell because it's moving. The more expensive canvases have thicker fabric, thicker canvas, and they're usually, that's how you can, this is more like a student grade, but it's not really something that I'm doing it for a class, so I bought some cheapy peepy stuff. As I said before, I use a lot of cheap acrylic paint in this phase. I usually get really kind of crafty paint, which is a lot cheaper. You know, $5–6 a tube for the big containers. I am just using up this paint since I have it. I know most of this. I could use some of that blue in there if you need to know how to do that. I have some great products that I use for brush cleaners. I'm basically just making little wards here of ideas, like little kind of areas I want to. When I start doing the paper too, I will probably not pay a whole lot of attention to that, but at least this gives me some ideas to work from. I'm going to throw a little darker color there so it didn't show up too well. There we are. Got some wispies. Oh, she's free. This is her ear. Okay, that's a good stopping point right now. I'm going to let all this dry since this is the undercoating.